oil and gas operators over in Texas. And of course I didn't know anything about it. Well, I knew about oil and gas, natural gas, as a product, but I didn't know anything about the oil and gas industry in itself. But it was quite easy because they just asked me if I knew some people, some Danish clients who could be interested to invest money in oil and gas production over in the United States. And I said, I don't know, but I can check. So I called some of my clients and I said, hey, I have this offer to invest some money in the United States to drill oil and gas wells. And a lot what you will see when you grow older, when you might start your own businesses, most of the success that you will have will be out of timing. You're at the right place at the right time. In the mid-90s, a lot of people start investing a lot of money, and some become very successful. And when you see that, when they have a lot of money and making a lot of profits, they also are easier to deal with, to get them to try other stuff. I mean, I don't know how much you're following the financial markets today, but today the timing is not that great to sell financial products. The equity markets is going down, the property markets is going down, the bond markets is going down because people are afraid if the Greece will survive, if Ireland will survive, if Portugal will survive, Italy will survive. So investors, they don't like when markets are uncertain because they need confidence. The same confidence we need to create a business. But I came into the oil and gas business and I also made some new friends, and one of my friends that you met, Thomas Jensen, he asked me, why don't we start up a company in Copenhagen, like an oil and gas broker company, with the purpose of trying to get Danish investors acquire oil and gas properties in the United States. I said, why not? And then what I had learned from my previous engagement in the hotel and restaurant, I would say, like, maybe this time I would like, to sit down and make some calculation. What kind of office space do we need? I mean, how much do I think we have to sell to cover our cost? Because I didn't want to have the same experience again, that I was running around with too big overhead and always be panicking or struggling just to make money, to pay the employees, to pay the rent, to pay the light, to pay whatever. So we decided, we find a small place and let's you and I start to create some business, and when we get money coming in, then we can hire a secretary or an accountant and so forth and move the business. So we started, and we made a lot of trips going back and forth from Denmark to the United States, and I met the oil and gas operators because I think what they did is quite genius. How they're setting up their business. Because when I looked at them and what I'm doing right now, I combine my life with my business. People say, Christer, you never work. I say, I always work. Most of the time anyway, I'm on my computer, I'm talking with people, I look for opportunities to try to start something if I think the time is right. Or if I think the time is right, I do as little as possible. But I'm still thinking, for what can happen, what can change in the future, what can be a good business idea out there. The Americans did the same thing. I mean, the first two guys we start working with, Mike Foster and Larry Norton, they were just those two and one secretary. They probably had $100,000 plus minus, very small office, but they had a business idea that they would going out and acquire existing production. It's like you're buying an existing company who is up and running. You actually have a cash flow. And how you set the price on a corporation is more like you say, okay, it can be 3 to 5 years of profit. So if you have a company and you make a profit net of 100,000 euros, you can say X the goodwill, it might be worth 500,000. So if you invest 500,000 by acquiring that company, it should take you around 5 years to get break even. And then from there, you should actually make money. But then, of course, you have an idea when you're acquiring a company that you can lower the cost, increase the production. When we're talking oil and gas, drill an extra well. I mean, trying to push up the revenue and take down the cost. And again, this is something I have, or we have made the money that, have supported other type of business than I started later on. And when you're going in now, when you're sitting here and you're going to get some flavors, some ideas, what would I like to do? I mean, it's very hard because every time you get the question, that's really not need to have something with business, but when you get, can you say, confronted with something and you don't have the answer and you see yourself like, I need to come up with something. And I say, well, you don't need to come up with something because there is no panic. You don't need to panic. This takes time. And you need to have some experience. Now when I have Christopher here, it's easy for me because he's coming to me and says, I need a business idea. And I said, okay, business idea. And then I say, okay, but what would you like to do? I mean, where are your interests? Is it diving, for example? I mean, do you really like to dive? Then that could be a future business. Not tomorrow, to compete here in Malta with other dive centers. They already have the clients, the know-how, they probably have a very low overhead because they've been in business for the past 20 years. Or you going out to start up your dive center, it's going to take time because, I mean, you need blood, you need income to be able to survive. And I've always been a person who mostly been, I dealt very little with administration because I think that's dead boring. There are people who is much better doing that than what I am. And those things I can buy. I can buy an accountant, I can buy a lawyer, but what I can't buy is sales. I need to have sales. They say, sales cures it all. Because as long as you're making money, you can actually handle problems. You can handle extra costs. And that's I think the toughest thing for you guys is to see where the hell should I start. First you need to start with an idea. And hopefully it can be something that you really are eager to do. That you can actually combine when people say, oh, my work, it's not work, it's a hobby. But face it, your hobby will turn into work. Because it's not always going to be fun. When your company is growing, you're going to bring in new people who can help you because you can't do everything by yourself. And Jesus, when you bring in people, you bring in problems. You bring in, ideas, I can do this, or laziness, or, a lot of stuff. So what you should bring in, or what I'm trying to bring in, instead of employing people, I partner up with people. You're building a team. Rather to go after all of it, go for a piece of it. Because that's how I see how to work. People also, we don't have an office here in Malta. And actually our business, the reason why we moved here 3.5 years ago, didn't have anything to do with the business. I saw we could take some of the business with us. We have an office in the States, we have an office in Sweden. And the employees or in Sweden and they are in the States. So for us to come here was, well, I was looking, well, I didn't know anything about Malta before November 2007. It was a coincidence. We had a Swedish client living here in Malta. He called me up, and when I saw the number 356, I was thinking like, 356, where the hell is that? I know that Finland is 358. I think Finland is 358. So I thought they must be up there, you know, around Finland. So I said, well, sorry, where do you call from? And he said, Malta. Malta, where's that? Albania? Malta? Well, you know, Malta was for me, Sweden played football in Slima. Not on grass, on, what you call that?
Okay.
No, not AstroTurf. This is back in the 80s. Yes. Okay, they played on rubbish. So that was Malta for me, and the Eurovision Song Contest was Malta. And the summer before I came here, I mean, we had an idea. After living in Copenhagen, I said, why don't we move to Sweden? I'm Swedish. Christopher and his sister is Danish, with the mother, of course. So I said they can come to Sweden and learn proper Swedish. You know, that's a world language. But we went there, we stayed for 8 years, and we got so bored. So we said, okay, we have to move. I didn't want to move back to Denmark. We said, well, let's move somewhere south. You know, better climate, like we had yesterday. So we came down here, well, I came down to Malta, and I saw like, okay, Malta in EU, came into EU in 2004, Euro 2008. And this, you know, I get some, oh, you might, or we might be able to do something here, because I mean, Malta future plan is a lot in the financial business, accountants, lawyers, because you know, it's very small. So